Hola Madridistas, welcome to another episode of Let's Be Real, a Real Madrid podcast. So today's episode is a very special episode because this is something we're trying new for the first time. So today we are going to react to the new summer acquisition that Real Madrid has made just today in Aurelien Tchouameni, and we're also going to talk about somebody who Real Madrid signed on a free before Tchouameni, that is Antonio Rüdiger. All right. So these two are very special signings, especially, coming on the back of the debacle that was the signing of Kylian Mbappe. So, or maybe you guys want me to refer to him as he who must not be named. Like, what's your pick?
I think I prefer the cactus analogy, but we can keep that. I mean,
yeah, okay. Ritwik really loves his cacti, yeah.
We shouldn't burn all the bridges, so let's just keep Kylian Mbappe there.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, today's a happy day for us, so probably we won't want to spoil it by talking about somebody who who doesn't actually value us and just use us for money. So, but then I think this Tchouameni transfer has potential to be one of the best transfers of the summer because of the potential that this guy has, right? Just to give a background on the Tchouameni transfer, I think Real Madrid has been following him for a while. And the actual transfer was supposed to go next summer because Real Madrid's primary target, as we all know, were Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland. But if he had spent money on them, then probably Tchouameni wouldn't have had money. And there were rumors that Tchouameni was going to sign for Liverpool. But things turned out the way they turned out. And now Tchouameni is coming to Real Madrid on a I think it is 80 million euros plus 20 million euros in add-ons, although some rumors are saying it's going to be more than 100 million euros, but it is what it is. So I'll start with you, Sunet. What is your reaction to this transfer, and what do you think about the transfer fee?
Well, like it's in theory, it should be one of the best signings that we have made in recent years, along with Camavinga, who I was a huge fan of, before he was joining. It's the same with Tchouameni as well. But I was super critical, especially in the group, if you guys remember, of the transfer fees that was involved. And I thought that is an astronomical fee for someone very young and still in his development. Yeah, people have paid like mad fees for FedEx and the likes, but I understand the market states the value and then we have to abide by it. Like it's totally understandable, but from a footballing perspective, he offers us a lot of avenues that I think were missing, especially his dynamism in midfield, his ball carrying ability, his anticipation of when and where to be in the middle of the pitch is vital, especially for someone who is very young. And you gotta also put into perspective that this guy from a very young age has been under a very powerful microscope. Like he was always scrutinized and labeled as the next big thing. So there's immense pressure, it's very hard to overcome it. And there's so many examples in modern football of the players that couldn't rise above the huge burden of expectations. But this guy, I think he has the minerals to actually turn out pretty great. So I'm super excited, bro, to be honest.
Okay, I'm just going to take us back to last summer, right? Last summer, Real Madrid missed out on Kylian Mbappe. That's a tale that everybody knows. And then we spent the money that we had on Eduardo Camavinga. So when we signed Eduardo Camavinga, there was this theory among Barcelona fans. They said, oh, it's okay, Real Madrid signed Camavinga, but Tchouameni is the better prospect. And now we have signed Tchouameni as well. So I'm going to come to you, Farouk. I'm going to ask you, having signed Camavinga and Tchouameni both, what do you think is the prospect for Real Madrid in the future, especially in midfield?
I think right now, the midfield's future looks quite bright, much more brighter than it did at the beginning of last summer. Because at the beginning of last summer, we remember we were still reeling on the back of the exit from Chelsea, and the biggest thing we could see in the game was that our midfield was literally needing an overhaul. Even maybe not an overhaul, but an injection of dynamism, to use Sunait's word. So I think with Camavinga and Fede Valverde and Tchouameni right now, it looks really, really bright. Like the potential there is just that's just the thing. Like right now, the thing is that you're just buying the potential and hoping that it happens. So it's just a high risk, high reward kind of thing. So that's just you go in big or you go home. So it's either of those two things. However, one thing I actually did not know before was that this morning someone was telling me that actually Tchouameni wasn't a defensive midfielder. He was a central midfielder. It was when he went to Monaco that on the Niko Kovac that he turned him into a double pivot with Yusuf Fofana. That's something actually that I did not know. But I haven't seen a lot of Tchouameni actually to be able to make a comment because I only saw him last year in the Nations League. I haven't seen him actually at all this season. So I just hope he's able to, do the thing that if he offers at least a bit of what Casemiro offered, I think we should be good. That's just what I would say.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting point because personally, from what little I have watched Aurelien Tchouameni, I can tell you that he is not a like-for-like replacement for Casemiro. This is not a guy who is going to sit deep and defend the half spaces. This is a guy who tries to defend on the front foot, so he's going to be very aggressive, close down midfielders. When you consider the fact that Liverpool were linked with him, you can understand what sort of a midfielder he is because I think he's a very prototypical Jurgen Klopp midfielder because he likes to go ahead and press whoever's on the ball. And the fact is, like, this guy is a very good tackler. But then he's not exactly what Casemiro is. He doesn't sit deep.
I wanted to actually pose a question though, right? Like I've seen my fair share of Tchouameni as well, especially in the Nations League, like I mentioned to you guys before. Do you guys think like he is very similar in player terms to Camavinga?
Yeah, for me, I think that's a very very good question because the thing is like when you look at the stats, I'm sure Rüdiger is going to entertain us with some really obscure stats that we might not know so far. But the thing is like when you look at those stats, I think when it comes to carrying the ball, Tchouameni has a similar number of progressive ball carries as Camavinga does. But the thing is like I think Camavinga is more comfortable playing in the deep. He has the ability to bring out the ball from the back, which I don't think Tchouameni exactly has, although I would say that Tchouameni is a brilliant passer. He can make great passes, from the back, great progressive passes. But I think when do you remember when Ancelotti plays Ceballos and Camavinga together? They have this ability where they can interchange positions, So that is something what I expect when we have Camavinga and Tchouameni playing together, because I think Camavinga has the ability to defend inside the box while Tchouameni has the ability to press opponents and rob them of the ball. So I think that is something that will help us going forward. And I think Valverde is somebody who has the ability to carry the ball and run with the ball, move across the line. So I think this is something that can work out. But I think
wouldn't be the guy who's sitting back.
I envision it to be such because I think Camavinga has the ability to bring the ball out from the back, help defenders. I haven't yet seen that from Tchouameni. But Tchouameni is a good passer. That doesn't mean he's not a good passer. He's definitely a good passer. So, but I think we'll still need to add some more creativity from other positions. Maybe be it the fullbacks or the wingers, or maybe even a striker like Benzema. So, Ritwik, I'll come to you. What do the stats tell about Tchouameni?
Okay, so obviously they're very interesting. The first one that just pops out is the interception. He's in the 99th percentile for interception in the top 5 leagues. So I think that's pretty good. Like I think he's probably one of the better players in that position. And even in the percentage of aerial duels won, he's in the 98th percentile. That's insane. I mean, so that shows that I think we have always lagged with Alaba also. The aerial duels was always a weak spot for Real Madrid for last 2 seasons, I believe. But I think Tchouameni's addition will really help us. And I think Tokyo was very right. His progressive carries and all that passing abilities, they're actually pretty decent. He's in the low 90s percentile of all those, your basic stats like, progressive passes or passes in the final third progressive, distance carries in the final third. He's all, like 88 to 90 percentile is there on almost all of them. So, and even his interception, again, 99 percentile, tackles, 98 percentile. It's insane how good his work rate is. You can see from here. Tackles and all. I mean, tackle 184 percentile. I think all in all, I think is a pretty solid buy. I do still think the price might be a little steep, but only time will tell us, I guess. I thought Vinicius, the price for Vinicius and Rodrigo was too steep, but I think now it was a bargain. So I think it's all about perspective. We cannot connect the dots right now. We can only connect it after 2 or 3 years into his career, seeing back how good this decision was. But right now, I'm really excited.
I think the thing now becomes this, like, for a midfielder, right? The point is that 100 million euros is always gonna be steep. Okay, 80 plus 20, it's always gonna be steep. I think earlier Sunil was pinpointing to the fact about João Felix. You understand? So the point is that João Felix was really expensive, and I thought like Atletico got milked, and to be honest, so far it seems like they got milked, right? But the point was that if João Felix actually started to deliver, the 30 goals a season number, everyone would be like, okay, it's okay, 120 million. Exactly right. But the point is that for Tchouameni right now, what we're gonna just keep talking about is the interceptions, is the tackles and all that. You understand? And these are things that they are at the back pages of the newspaper, man. Like everyone wants just the Vinicius who just comes in and makes an R2 and it's a goal. So that's what everyone wants eventually. You get. So I feel like for Tchouameni thing, it's just always gonna be an issue, and that's actually my biggest problem. The point is that this guy has been linked to a lot of big teams, right? And as Sunil rightly pointed out, he's always been hyped since he was very young. But the thing now becomes playing at Real Madrid, it's a whole different ball game. And then when you come as 100 million euros defensive midfielder, it's a whole even much more different ball game. So how does this guy cope with this? He's just 22, he's still developing, So how does he eventually cope with this? How does it, how does he adapt to this process? What happens when he's labeled the worst player of the week by Marca? When he's labeled the worst transfer of the season by Marca, what does he do? How does he react to these things? So that's the key things there for me.
I totally get you, but let me counter that with the fact that I could reason with that, maybe saying that like Camavinga's 30 million price tag was pretty low and low profile, so that like it must have been easier for him. But to counter that, Tchouameni is a much more polished product than Camavinga, right? So I think it should be enough, hopefully.
And he's also a starter for France, right?
I don't think Tchouameni is a starter for France. I think the point is that when they're injured, when the guys are injured, that's when Tchouameni has played. This is what I've seen. When Kanté and Pogba were in there, Tchouameni has started for France. But when they were all fit, Tchouameni hasn't started for France.
I mean, that is a good point. But the thing is, like, Didier Deschamps is very hesitant to bring in new players into his group. The fact that he made an exception and brought in Tchouameni, and that even he's giving him a chance when Kanté or Pogba is out, speaks volumes. Because right now, I think Ferland Mendy is probably better than Luka Dean, but he still doesn't call Ferland Mendy to the French national team. So I think that is something that works in favor of.
The only guy to start, I think, most of the games for France in the Nations League. He's the constant.
Which nation? Okay, yeah. So that's the thing. I'm talking about last season's Nations League. That's the one I watched. The one they won with Benzema scoring the goals and all that. I haven't seen Tchouameni at all this season. I don't even know.
But the year can change a lot, Farouk. You know that, right?
So that's the thing. Like, don't misunderstand me, guys. I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to bring down his accomplishments or what is not. You understand? I'm just trying to pinpoint here. The point is that, it's not like Tchouameni is a world beater. He's never played in Champions League, for example. You get the point. So that's one thing we should also, put into consideration. I'm just talking about the fact that we've seen a lot of players get burned, because the point now becomes is like, when we talk about this kind of players, like, it's okay. For example, for Edu Camavinga, really the reason why I felt like he had it so easy was because like he came on the last day of the season, and he came, when he wasn't like under immense pressure because of the price tag as well, So he was just like brought, okay, like this one is for the future and what is not. But the point is, as you guys rightly pointed out, Tchouameni has much more hype than Camavinga had. If I'm right, isn't it so? And now he's coming for 100 million euros. So that's a whole different thing. Like literally everyone is just waiting to see, okay, what's up with this guy?
I mean, I wouldn't say Tchouameni was hyped more than Camavinga, because Camavinga was starting in League at the age of 16. So I think that comes with its own pressure. But you make a fair point when you say that the price tag and
Tchouameni was also starting at Bordeaux at 17 as well, though. So that's also something. So it's not like it's that much far away.
Okay, fair point. But I still think that the fact is like the fact that Tchouameni is coming as a marquee signing, especially because we missed out on Mbappe, it does
Yes.
add pressure to him, and I think you're right on that. I would like to just end the discussion on Tchouameni on a point that Tchouameni actually plays like 10 passes under pressure every 90 minutes, and I think that is even more than what Cruz does in a normal game for us. So I hope he delivers. You know, he does well for us. So moving on, I think another guy who we signed this season, for next season, and especially experienced guy and somebody who made the team of the year for the Champions League is Antonio Rudiger. So personally, I don't watch much of Premier League, and Rudiger had a bad time under Frank Lampard at Chelsea, but then when Thomas Tuchel came along, he became one of the undisputed names in the Chelsea team. So I'll probably start with you, Farouk, on this one. Maybe you can tell us a bit about Rudiger and his play style.
Rudiger is a monster, man. He's a poor man's version of Sergio Ramos. That's just it. I think that's the highest praise you can get. Like Rudiger is a monster, to be honest. And I really, really, like as Richard pointed out earlier about the aerial duel, like the lack of aerial threat, not threat rather, but like defensive. We're aerially weak defensively, right? Rudiger is like he's a monster in that. Like Rudiger, But then the thing now becomes is like Rudiger has that error in him, I would say. So that's the thing about Antonio Rüdiger, to be honest. Like he has that error in him from game to game. But I would say this really, like, he brings the leadership, the passion, the warrior spirit. Like he's a fighter, really, he's a fighter. He grew up in the slums of Germany. So like he's he played on the streets and what is and what is not. He's a really rugged fighter. And actually about the Lampard thing, like it was really, really curious, like why he wasn't getting time on the Lampard. Apparently, I think it was just a clash of personalities with Frank Lampard, actually. But like Tony Rudiger is really good. But then the question now becomes this, to be honest. Can Tony Rudiger perform in a four-man backline? This is a very huge question. This really, to be honest, is a very huge question. However, let me just complete my point. He played in Rome, and at Roma, he was playing on the four-man backline. And really, he was good at Roma as well, to be honest. But then the point is that what we've seen is that at Chelsea, when they played the four-man backline, to be honest, Rudiger was exposed. And I think the reason why he was exposed is because, I said, is because of his brashness. Like he's just like, a person who plays with the emotions and just goes and, doesn't care what's left behind of him or what's ahead of him. So he's that kind of
Even
person.
In Germany, I noticed they play a back five or back three, right? Germany?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They play now with wing backs as well.
So Sunil, I was just going to come to you probably. What are your expectations from Antonio Rudiger and how do you expect him to perform at Real Madrid?
Rudiger, bro, like he is those dying breed of defenders, in the essence of your Ramoses and Pepe's, man, of years gone. Like he instills that aggressive defending from the front foot thing that is so underrated. People nowadays, the modern game, get too caught up in ball playing center backs or elegant on the ball and like very good on both feet and whatnot. Those are all superlative if you can't do the basic stuff that's defending, and this guy is pretty down decent at it. So I have I wouldn't say very high hopes. I have very good hopes of Rudiger actually being a very valuable addition. And like Tchouameni, he again opens different avenues whereby Alaba can maybe play left back, and he can slot in beside Militao, etc. So yeah, like he brings immense experience. He brings a fighting spirit just like Alaba. And I was someone who severely doubted how motivated Alaba would be. So I'm ready to be humbled again, bro. So
do you think Rudiger has what it takes to organize a defense and be the leader that Alaba has been for us this season?
I think like from my experience of watching him in a Chelsea shirt, especially, like my memories of him in a Roma shirt are very vague because it's been quite a few years. But at Chelsea, he has been the guy who's instructing people where to be, who is instructing people to be more aggressive, to be on your toes and whatnot. So he's very vocal. He is your Alaba extreme, I can say, Alaba pro. So I think he's going to be pretty good.
Farouk, would you agree?
What do you think, man? Sorry, go on, okay.
Yeah, Farouk, would you agree with that assessment about Rudiger's leadership?
Actually, I was gonna say no. I wouldn't agree with that, to be honest. In my opinion, I think
Really?
yeah, I think the point is like Rudiger performs best when he plays with Thiago Silva, Cesar Azpilicueta, and the only reason is because those guys are the leaders of the team. Those guys organize the
I think
defense on
that
his
he
behalf.
is also very vocal. He is also
So the thing now becomes this, like, being vocal and being, an organizer are two different things. Being, I think
okay,
in
yeah.
that you get the point. So like, about so the thing now is that, okay, now Rudiger might be a very vocal person, depends, that he's a very aggressive person, and because like he's a very motivated fighter. But in my opinion, I think that the leaders of his defense have always been either you go with Germany in the past with the Matthew Melts and what is not, and like at Chelsea it's been Cesar Azpilicueta or like Thiago Silva, in my opinion. So I don't think he would necessarily bring the kind of leadership that David Alaba brings, in my opinion. But I think he's gonna add a lot more to the defense. Like he's gonna add a lot of aggressiveness, even much more than Militao gives currently. Well, actually, my big fear is when we have a partnership of Militao and Rudiger, what happens then? I actually feel it's gonna be, just a loose market, man. Like the delinquents are
I'm gonna
outside.
tell you, bro. I'm gonna tell you, Rudiger will be the guy leading Militao. Trust me. Trust me.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see. That's sometimes just because Azpilicueta and both Thiago Silva are more experienced and veterans of the game. Maybe that's why I haven't seen the leadership thing I talked about. But yeah, let's see how it works with.
You just need to contrast two personalities, man. Just take, for example, Rafael Varane, right? Like he was one of the best that we had in the recent years, and you compare it with Antonio Rudiger. Yeah, I get your point that he might not be as technically gifted to organize the backline, but I think he brings immense leadership qualities that might just help him out.
So I think you guys have made very interesting points, although both of them are like contrasting points about Rudiger and his leadership. Let me just go to Ritvik now. Ritvik, I'm sure that you have had the opportunity to watch Antonio Rudiger play. So what has your impression been of Rudiger? And when you take that experience of watching Rudiger and put them in context with stats, like what would you like to tell us about Rudiger and his play stats?
So about this guy, I think the compliment that I can give him is whenever we played Chelsea, at least last season in the semifinals, I hated him because I did not like. He was a tough nut to crack for Madrid. He played really well in that semifinal, and I enjoyed watching him a lot. Even he's right, after Frank Lampard under Tuchel, I did watch some Chelsea games then, and I just hated Rudiger because I thought he was pretty good, and I never liked his attitude, his aggression. I always thought, okay, why? But then I get it. Like that's Madrid's. Like you would need that sort of man in your Madrid team. And watching the stats, it's pretty obvious that the man enjoys to go forward a lot.
Definitely.
Like his touches in the final third, he's in the 98th percentile. He has at least 11 touches every game in the final third. That's pretty insane for a centre back, right? And there's one more stat which I want to point out is that his dispossessed stat is he's in the third percentile. That means he just doesn't get dispossessed that easily. That's pretty insane stats. And his defensive stats are just, and even his progressive carries and all, it's pretty insane for a center back. So I'm really excited about Rudiger. I think he can take up that Sergio Ramos role. I mean, he's not a like-for-like replacement, but I think he's the closest that we can get to Sergio Ramos.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
To that, I actually have a question for all of you. What do you think the backline will be from next season? Like, how would you adjust Mendy, Alaba, Rudiger, Carvajal, and Militao?
That was going to be my question as well. But then I was just like, just before we go on to that topic, I would just like to point out that signing Rudiger also gives us a threat in the box, especially on corners.
Yeah.
We were pretty horrible.
Very good set pieces. Yep.
Yeah, so I hope that works out for us. But then I think going to Ritvik's question, which I think is a very good question, how do you guys expect the backline especially to change? Because although Tchouameni might be a signing who we give time to bed in, but Rudiger is somebody I think who would want to start right away. So what do you expect the backline to be, and who misses out? And then if somebody, let's say Ferland Mendy is somebody you think would miss out,
He's
what do you think happens in the future with them?
Thank God we are not coaches, man. Thank God we're not paid the big bucks. So that's just the thing. I'd say this though, like the thing is, I feel like Mendy isn't getting a lot of credits from myself as well, because actually after we made the last pod, like someone actually told me like, are you guys watching the same person I'm watching? You know, like I think we were making him 7th or 8th in the rankings. I can't remember the exact number.
I'm
then
so
actually,
glad I did not put him there. I put him higher up.
I was watching, I was like listening to the last episode like today in the morning. So I remember it. Like, I think he distinctly said he wanted to put Ferland Mendy 5th.
And me and Farooq were questioning him, right?
Yeah, we
exactly,
did agree with
exactly. Exactly. So actually, I think, like, to be honest, like I'm just, as I pointed out earlier, my fear now becomes like, how does like the relationship between, you know, Rudiger and Militao works out? For me, like I would just be like, let it be Mendy and Casemiro, or sorry, Mendy and Carvajal, and then it's Alaba and somebody else. That's what I would say, you know, but I don't know who it will be between Militao and Rudiger. But then also the point now becomes that I consider Militao to be the best defender we have this season. So really, it's just, you know, like it's whatever I say is just a losing game, man. So I don't know.
In my opinion, like at least like it should be a case of what a game asks us to do, basically. Like I get a backline needs continuity and rhythm to be at full throttle, but if they can get up to speed and they work out very, very well, I think they can be rotated out pretty much, you know, Ferland Mendy and Rudiger, depending on where Alaba plays. So
yeah, my thing was going to be the fact that you know, this season we already saw that when Ancelotti gave continuity to Militao and Alaba, that's when they played their best. So I would be a little bit hesitant to, you know, chop around, especially with the back line.
About pre-January, you know, pre-winter transfer. Then early parts.
Early part, you want to chop around and see who performs the best.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good way to go about it. But an interesting rumor came out today from Dairo As, and they said that Real Madrid might be open to listening to offers for Ferland Mendy. What are your reactions to that?
Oh, I didn't read that. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, Real Madrid aren't exactly pushing to sell Mendy. The thing is, like, if an offer comes for Ferland Mendy, they'll sell him. They would consider selling him. Not that they will sell him.
I think it's fake news. Because
well,
the point now becomes this.
So, you know,
so context now becomes this, right? If Tchouameni is moving for 80 plus 20, and Darwin Núñez is moving for 100, then what does Ferland Mendy cost on the market? And who is willing to pay that? No one. So I think no one is going to give an offer that Real is going to listen to. So that's,
do you think it cost 70, 60 million?
Exactly. That's the numbers. That's the numbers.
You're living in cuckoo land, my friend. But
man, if Tchouameni is moving for 100 and Darwin Núñez after one season is moving for 100,
I guarantee you that nobody is going to pay 60 million for Ferland Mendy.
So that's my point. Like, who's going to, like, how much did Mendy come from? 30, 25? 50. So Mendy came for 50. So you have to pay at least 70, man. That's what I'm saying. And no one is going to pay 70 in this market for this guy.
I wouldn't be so, you know, sure that nobody, because I think Manchester City could use a proper left back, and I think PSG
Manchester City can play with Ferland Mendy 100%. Man City can play with Ferland Mendy. No. Okay. Why do you think Pep kept persisting with Benjamin Mendy? Benjamin Mendy is a shitty defender, but he was someone who could play football. So that was the only reason why. But Mendy is a good defender, but he can play football. So then what's happening there?
I mean, Mendy has shown to himself to be a Zidane of the defensive box. So. But okay, guys, moving on from this rumor, which we all hope isn't true. What do you guys think Real Madrid should do next in the transfer window? So just to put some context to it, I think the current reporting is that Real Madrid are probably not going to sign anyone, because they don't, like, there's nobody who's an immediate priority to sign, because, like, we had Tchouameni, we had Rudiger. So right now we don't have anybody on that scale. But the thing is, like, if some departures happen, Real Madrid could go into the transfer market looking for an attacker. But right now, there's no priority, and probably Borja Mayoral is somebody who's going to come back, do the preseason. Let's see how it goes. And maybe Juan Miratasa is going to be backing up Benzema next season. So what do you guys think Real Madrid should do in whatever remains of the transfer window?
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Like I would honestly welcome Gabriel Jesus, especially the versatility he brings.
I think the issue with Gabriel Jesus is the fact that he's non-EU and we don't really have a non-EU speaker.
Yeah. I totally understand that. Like that would completely rule him out. But I would love him, and especially that since he can play right wing, and that is a position that we sometimes lack ideas in. So yeah, if not for him, I think maybe another winger would help us. Like I have no names in mind at the moment. Like,
I think if you sign a winger, probably Serge Gnabry is the most likely version, because he's the only one who's EU. The thing about Serge Gnabry is the fact that I think he wants to run down his contract at Bayern and come sign on a free with whoever he wants to sign. But I think if Real Madrid do go for him, I think there's a possibility that we could sign him, because Bayern wouldn't want him to go on a free. But let's see what happens. So Ritvik, probably I'll come to you next. What do you think Real Madrid should do in the transfer window?
I think backup striker is a must. I think from signing him back would be nice. I also think we can go for RDT. I mean, he's a good option. He has shown that he's capable of scoring. His stats are also pretty decent this season. I think he had 17, 18 goals. I'm not sure. I don't remember. That's pretty good. And I believe he's a Real Madrid Youth Academy product only, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So I think we can go for RDT, and he'll be a much better option coming off the bench than Jovic or your Mariano. No, he'll definitely be more productive. And I think given that Benzema, I'm not saying Benzema but he's 33, 34, I'm not sure. But I mean, he's not going to perform at this level every single season. So I think the transition should start this season, at least a little bit, where maybe Benzema can play 75% of the games, and different backup striker can play 25 to 30% of the games. And I think that'll be really good. I think RDT can fit that profile really well.
Yeah, right, I think RDT is an interesting suggestion, because the fact that RDT is homegrown, so he'll fit that slot as well. For me personally, I think another interesting name for a striker position would be Amin Gouiri, who has done well for Nice, and I think he has a very similar style to Benzema. But then moving on, I think I'll give the last word to Farouk, and then we can end this episode today. We wanted to keep it short, but yeah, it's probably gone longer than we would have hoped.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit biased. I just want Sadio Mane. Like, that's the only player, and I just close after Sadio Mane. Just close.
Yeah, Sadio Mane is somebody I would love as well, but then I think it's the same issue. He's non-EU.
No, actually, even apart from the non-EU shit, like Sadio Mane doesn't make sense. The man is 30 years old, and like he relies on physicality and athleticism to play. And the point is, after 30, you start to decline. So that's even before 30, you start to decline. So that's just it. Actually, I think it's. But I think one curious thing about this is that I feel personally like RDT wouldn't come back to Real Madrid. I think. I'm not very sure, but I think
RDT wants to come back to Real Madrid from what I've read. But the thing is, like,
he was open to coming back, right?
Yeah. But the point now becomes this: RDT is gonna come back, and he's not gonna do shit. Because when you start playing RDT for 25% of the games, as Rick rightly pointed out, literally playing the same position of the best player in the world, you're gonna play 20% of the game, which becomes the Copa del Rey or the 15 minutes in the La Liga games, or like the Dead Robbers Champions League games.
But and you got to actually go back and look at the 16-17 season. I totally understand Benzema wasn't firing on all cylinders, but those Morata goals came in clutch, bro. So you never know.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, but I don't think Benzema will be rotated that much, because that season we literally had like two teams that were playing the competitions.
I think Benzema will have to be rotated next season, given the fact that there's a World Cup as well.
Yeah. Also, keeping aside the World Cup, it's more of like you're keeping your team's like balance in luck. Like if he's injured, who are you gonna play every week? Like imagine, like we were lucky he was not injured this season, but you have to keep these things in mind. You need someone reliable, more reliable than Mariano or Jovic. So you have to keep this, and especially the World Cup. I mean, he has to be rotated at some point. So I think RDT would make a lot of sense.
So Farouk, any last words before we end this?
Let's just get Asensio out of the team first and first. So that's just it.
Plus on that. Plus on
Thank
that.
you,
Plus
right?
on that.
All right, guys. I think that's it for today's episode. We wanted to keep it short, but maybe we couldn't hit the target time we wanted. Next time, we'll probably keep it short. And thank you for supporting us. Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid.